about James Harden. So let's have a frank conversation.
Good boy.
Yes,
I'm with
love
you.
that.
Go ahead.
Later today or tomorrow or whenever they can convince everybody there was no tampering, Bradley Beal is going to sign a $254 million contract. That is the largest contract in the history of the NBA. We're going to have some other guys get in that neighborhood too, Jokic, et cetera. That is the contract that James Harden thought he was going to be signing today. 1 year ago, well, it was a little bit less than 1 year ago, the Nets offered him a $200 million extension, and James passed on it because he said, I'm not going to sign for $200. I'm going to sign for $250 in a year. And by the way, I wouldn't necessarily have argued with him because I think the Nets, if things had gone differently, would have given him the $250. Well, he's no longer a $250 million player. Joel Embiid knows this. He's made it clear. He said it on the record. All of us actually know it. But, Joel Embiid said it on the record. We all heard it. James Harden, but the key here is that James Harden knows it. And that's a very important thing. Because one of the things that happens in the NBA, you get guys who come into their mid-30s, and Harden's going to turn 33 before next season. One of the hardest things to deal with, and you can ask the Los Angeles Lakers about this, is a star player who is past his prime who doesn't recognize it. James Harden, I will give him this. He's still got to be better, but he recognizes it. And what he's going to sign for is going to be $100 million less than that $250. It might be $150 million less than the $250 that he thought he was going to get. So, okay, he realizes that he is not that same player anymore. What is he going to do about it? This is where we talk about the other side of this conversation, and this is where I am intrigued by what's going on. So he's going to opt out of that contract. He could have taken the $47 million and then built a deal off of that. The Sixers were going to sign him. They just traded away all kinds of things. It wasn't like they were going to say, well, if you take the 47, we can't do it, but we're not giving you the 250. They were going to sign him, but he goes, you know what, Daryl Morey, you and I have worked together. You put your neck on the line to bring me in here. Let's make a deal that we can all work with. And Daryl Morey said, okay, now when you do that, now I'm going to go to work, James. You're going to do that, now I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go out there and try to line us up. We can get PJ Tucker. I'm going to go out there. By the way, they've been all over the place in trade talks. They're talking about Tybal. They're talking about Tobias Harris. They're talking to all kinds of teams. I got all kinds of things in my phone about where they're potentially going with players in this next 3 to 7 days. Maybe they do a deal, maybe they don't. But they're going to bring in 3 to 5 new players that was opened up by Harden willing to do this. Now, at the end of the day, Chris, you know that what's all that's ultimately going to matter is what is James Harden look like when he gets on the court in October and November. So that's ultimately going to define how this works out. But at least I see James Harden making the changes and coming to terms with his situation that can help the 76ers move on to the next phase here. And I believe it does open the possibility that they could win the Eastern Conference because I know Daryl Morey can build a great team. And I voted for Joel Embiid for MVP last year. And I don't regret the vote. And I think he'll be a strong MVP candidate next year, too.
Well, 3 things. And first off, can we take Morey out of the Hall of Fame? I mean, he's a little bit like Billy Beane out in Oakland. You know, they get all this accolades, and there's no hardware. You know, Brian Sabian won 3 championships for the Giants, and all you hear about is Brad Pitt playing Moneyball and playing Buddy Beane. That's number one. Morey, he's never even been in an NBA final.
That's true.
So everybody puts him on this high level. You got to be careful. It's about winning championships, or at least competing for one. He hasn't done that yet. Number 2, and we got to be fair on this too with Harden. He shouldn't be worried about money. Harden should worry about, my earpiece fell out so they can't talk to me, which is better. They should be worried about the scenario of nobody's 20 years from now, who's going to remember how much money he made?
Right.
How about winning a championship?
He's made hundreds of millions.
Who cares? Now it really fell out. That's a break. Who cares? It's about winning an NBA title. Are you and I and our kids 30 years from now going to say, you know what? Forget about winning the championships. You know, he made $1 billion as an NBA player. It's not important. He should be at the point right now of legacy. Hey, my job is to help this team win an NBA championship, and I'll do everything I can do, whether it's getting in shape, whether it's, as you, great point, making a roster better because he takes less money. That's what his main goal should be. And too many athletes don't look at it that way. They look, okay, let me get mine, and then let them worry about what they can put up with. LeBron, what does he want, $97 million or whatever? He's eligible for that? How about LeBron take less? And the Lakers can add components to the team because at the end of the day, it's about winning championships. That's all it's about in legacy. And Harden should not even worry about the money. Not worry about it. And Morey's got to go out there and see if he can get a team into the NBA.
And it feels like, I mean, at least right now, the self-awareness to know what this roster needs and what his role has to be in taking less money and leaving money on the table. So you are not having to get rid of a Tobias Harris in order to facilitate some of the moves that they have to make under the salary cap. So you're not changing what you have to do with your depth and chipping away at it even further. Like, think about what that roster looked like after the Simmons and Harden trade went through. They lost a lot of key pieces that all went to Brooklyn. So
Seth Curry,
Andre Drummond, they don't have to make that happen anymore. They lost those future first-round picks, which, of course, you're going to do in a trade for James Harden. I get that. But now it's not like they have to continue to work with one hand behind their back, so to speak, here in free agency and having to limit their roster even further. You brought up LeBron and the amount of money that is on the table for him, potentially what he's going to take with the Los Angeles Lakers. Where do you think that affects them the most in what they're able to do around him? This at least for James Harden, the self-awareness, I think that goes a long way with the Philly fan base. Like, a place that wants a championship. These are the type of moves that you get from a player where it says, okay, I'm committed to the bigger picture here. I'm not just all in on trying to get the max deal for myself.
Right.
And I realize I saw the way that I shot. I've watched the tape of how I shot. I watched all of the memes, everything on social media of how people were critiquing how I looked and how I performed on the court. My body's got to get back in shape. I got to get better on the court.
100%.
He's doing all of those things, and it's adding up, and these money talks at the end of the day. And that's the type of move that he made by declining that.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.